Hello and welcome back to podcast number 31 from the Beautiful Things channel. Now I can only apologise, it has been 2 months since I last podcast. Podcast number 30 was back in November and it was following my trip to the Nottingham Yarn Expo. Now what it has done is it has made me realise that I was trying to do too much on my YouTube channel. As soon as I did lots of podcasts and I did lots of knitting and crochet things, all of my sewing followers did nothing but say, "Where's all the sewing?" And as soon as I started doing sewing things, all of my knitting followers came along and went, "Where's all the knitting?" I can't win and I can't do everything. So I'm going to welcome all my new viewers. First of all, thank you for stopping by. This is a new year of podcasts and I'm going to explain what I'm planning for the year. So the Beautiful Things channel initially was set up for me to share my crafty journey with you. As those of you who've followed me for some time will know, I am a craft and sewing teacher and I have a studio in Essex here in the UK where I teach from. I teach a mixture of crochet and sewing and crafts, and I have an external teacher who comes in to teach knitting, and I enjoy knitting as a hobby. So I like to share all of those crafty pursuits on my channel, but it's not easy keeping up with a regular stream of content. And I know a lot of the knitting and crochet podcasters that do this on a very, very regular basis either have a very structured work schedule, so they have specific times of the week when they know they're able to film. They also have time on their hands in the evening to actually make the things that they want to then show on their podcasts. Or they're dyers, and so they make sure that they make time in their schedule to film their podcasts on a weekly basis. Because of the nature of my job and my life and the fact that I have 2 small children, that simply isn't practical. There are times when I just get absolutely nothing made, and there's times like the last 2 months when I've done an awful lot but don't have a lot to show you. So this is what I'm planning. I am going to say that I will do a podcast once a month. And that gives me an entire 4 weeks to get something, hopefully, off the hook or off the needles. The podcast will be a mixture of knitting and crochet, but I will make sure that crochet makes a little bit more of an appearance than it did last year. Last year it was very knitting heavy, and I think that was because I was really getting into my knitting and starting to learn new skills. But we're going to go 50-50 knitting and crochet this year. But by setting a goal to do a podcast once a month, it means that I'm coming on when I've got something worth talking to you about. I may put the odd video in between if I've had a super busy, productive week, but I'm not going to promise that. So if you're following me for knitting and crochet, then expect a once a month podcast. In the interim, I will be posting 2 videos a week minimum on my YouTube channel. They won't be a podcast, they will probably be sewing related. So either a fabric haul or a pattern review or a makes video, or I might have a craftcation or a vlog from when I've been out doing something crafty or I've gone to an event. So I will be posting a minimum of 2 videos a week on my channel that are sewing and craft related, and then a once a month knitting and crochet podcast. So that is my bare minimum for this year. So just so you know what you can expect to see from me. The best place to keep up to date with what I'm up to is Instagram. I'm incredibly active on there. My feed is Arty Farty Mac. That's me personally. So you're going to see all of the crafty stuff I get up to, all of the sewing I get up to, things I do with my family, nights out, drinking gin, tea, cake, absolutely everything. If you want to see specifically the classes stuff that I do, then you need to follow my other feed, which is Beautiful Things HQ. And that's where I post all of the pictures from my classes and any promotions, offers or courses that I'm going to be running. So let's get started. As you can see, I've got a huge basket by the side of me. This is my WIPS basket. It lives down the side of my sofa and it's where I grab a bag of an evening and crack on with something. I'm going to work my way through it and I'm going to show you what I've been working on and what I need to do. I do have a little bundle of FOs to show you, and I also have some acquisitions. So let's start with the FOs. This is a hat that I've made. I have the final end to darn in. I apologise. I love this hat. It doesn't suit me, I don't think. It suits my daughter. I'm going to have to duck down for you to see it. So it is a granny beanie. It has a ribbed cuff, and the top, I'm going to take it off just so I can show you, works up like a mandala. It's really super easy, super simple, and it is a pattern that I have adapted from lots of other different patterns that I've tried over the time of learning to crochet, put them all together and turned into a one-size beanie. I think I'm going to upload this pattern to Ravelry as a free pattern. As I say, I haven't 100% designed it myself. There's bits and pieces from all different hats. So I'd feel wrong to charge it, but I'm going to pop it up as a free Ravelry download if anyone's interested. So the next one was with the yarn that I bought when I was in New York from Pearl Soho. It is so incredibly soft. And I just knitted a very basic cable beanie. I love cables. How easy are cables? Earlier on this year, I would have said to you, I could never do a cable. It's far too complicated because it looks complicated. But after taking a lesson with Carol to make these hats, honestly, it's brilliant. It's so easy. I love it. Granted, I've only done something really, really simple, but I'm really looking forward to trying something a bit more complex this year. But this hat is lovely. Again, I don't know that it suits me. I'm not sure that little beanies look right on me. But yeah, I'll probably give this to my daughter. But I did really enjoy knitting it. Although I'd have to be super careful because I think I mentioned in my New York vlog, this yarn is beautiful, but it is also incredibly expensive. I think it was about $26 a skein. So yeah, I'm saying so yeah a lot. I'm really sorry. It's the one thing that really, really bugs me when I watch people's channels. So yeah. So I'm going to try really hard not to say it. Sorry. Okay, so the next finished item, again, what is it with these tail ends? It takes 2 seconds to darn them in, but I haven't got round to it. This is one that I made during December. So if you watched my Vlogmas, you would have seen one of my episodes was making a hat. So I made this in December. It is the Wink Slouch Beanie. My tail end down the front, like a rasper. It is the Wink Slouch Beanie. I absolutely love it. It's a great pattern. It's really easy to make. I'm going to turn around, see if I can get the bit in the back in. Ouch, I don't know if that came in. I just hit my knee on my desk. Oh, I'm so out of practice. But no, I absolutely love this pattern. It's really nice. It's made from Stylecraft Cabaret yarn, which I love. It's my favourite colourway. It's absolutely beautiful. It's got the stellina in it. There you go, you can see it better there than me trying to balance and turn my head. But it's such a quick make. I can make one of these in about 2.5 to 3 hours. And it is a really, really easy pattern to follow. So it's the Wink Slouch Popcorn Beanie. I will pop a link down below. Okay, so that's my finished objects. Nothing particularly amazing, I'm afraid, but that's because I have been super busy. I did do quite a lot of knitting and crochet over December, and since December I have had startitis in a very, very bad way. I have an incredible amount of WIPS and I really have got to sort it out because it has got out of hand. So I'm going to start by showing you my Advent make. So as you know, I received the Down Sheepy Lane Advent calendar for Christmas, which I was very excited to receive. My plan was to make a pair of socks because I did that last Christmas, or Christmas before last now, and I did a few rows every day of each of the colours in the order. I had planned to drink my Advent gin while I knitted, but I got really behind with that because I was just have ended up drinking every single day, which was ridiculous. But anyway, I got halfway down the leg before I realised that I wasn't going to know when to put the heel in and the toe in. I couldn't work out the maths when to do it so that I would ensure that I got all the colours in. So I thought I'll just make a tube and then I'll do an afterthought heel and toe. And I wish I'd done that, but I didn't. I got further through and thought to myself, I know, these would make a really nice pair of fingerless mitts. How do I know where to put the hole in though for the thumb? So I did some Instagramming and chatted to quite a few of you, and you taught me to knit in some waist yarn, which you can see here. And then I could pick up the stitches around the outside of the waist yarn and knit a little tiny round a couple of times and cast off just to make a little hole for my thumb. So that's what I did. I knit the waist yarn in, and I finished on Christmas Eve with the final bit of my ribbing. So I did 2 rows of ribbing at the end, and that was good to go. I wanted to do a Christmas Eve cast on. So in my urgency to get these finished, it must have been about 9 o'clock on Christmas Eve. I'd already had a couple of glasses of wine. I picked up the stitches on one of my mitts and I knit round, as you can see, and I cast off. And then I stupidly, instead of getting a little needle and just carefully lifting out the waist yarn, I stupidly cut the waist yarn. Pulled it out, went, yay, brilliant, put my hand in, put my thumb in, and it laddered right down here. I'd cut the yarn in my mitten. I could have cried, I honestly could have cried. I was so cross with myself, it completely ruined my Christmas Eve. Myself and my husband were sitting on the sofa, we'd got some party food, we'd got a drink, and I was so blooming grumpy. And he was like, for goodness sake, Claire, it's just a bit of knitting. And I was like, you don't understand, I've worked on this for a whole month and I've been stupid and it's gone wrong. And I was so cross, I was so angry and I was so upset. I stormed upstairs, was banging around, I was huffing and puffing. I finished off the rest of the bottle of wine, and then I literally picked the whole thing up and I threw it across the living room, and that's where it stayed until Christmas morning. And then I picked up my Christmas Eve cast on. So I'll come back to these in just a second. It was by this time about 10 o'clock at night. Probably shouldn't have been thinking about casting on a Christmas Eve cast on, because I grabbed my Down Sheepy Lane, again, Unicorn Frappuccino. Beautiful, beautiful yarn. There we go. It's all sparkly, but I don't think you can see that very easily. And I cast on a hitchhiker with eyelets. Now, I don't know if that pattern is readily available or it's something that Viv tweaked, but basically it's the hitchhiker pattern, but on the last row you put some eyelets in instead of knitting it normally. And I must have cast this blooming thing on 3, 4, 5 times when I couldn't get it to work. By that time it was nearly midnight, and I'd ripped it back about 5 times. Bearing in mind I've made one of these before, but with the angst and anger of screwing up my mittens and the copious amounts of wine that I'd drunk, and then I was on gym by then, it just wasn't happening. So my Christmas Eve cast on didn't happen, and I was really cross. So I went to bed in a horrible, horrible mood. But it did happen eventually. We went to my mum's on Christmas Day. Once the kids had had a couple of presents and dinner was in the oven and we generally chilled out, I sat down on the sofa and I recast on my hitchhiker. We had Elspeth over for Christmas morning. She was playing and building Lego with my daughter, which was lovely to watch. And I sat on the armchair, cast on my hitchhiker and got it past the point that I'd screwed up the night before, and the rest is history. It's now looking really pretty. I haven't done that much of it, bearing in mind I cast this on Christmas Day morning, but it's looking really nice. I'm really pleased with it. It's a nice lacy look and I absolutely love it. It is a pleasure to knit, but as I mentioned to you earlier, I've had startitis, so I've been doing this probably for an hour or so every now and again since Christmas Day. It's a nice bit of telly knitting because you don't really have to massively concentrate on it. So I've been catching up on some TV, which I'll talk about a bit later, and knitting on that. But going back to my mittens, I figured that the best thing I could do was actually just walk away from them and not do anything with them. And I waited until, I think it was the beginning of January. We had a knit and natter at work and I took them in and I showed them to Carol and I showed her what I'd done, because originally I'd planned to literally rip back to here and then re-knit this section, but I figured there must be some way I could save it, and sure enough, she turned it inside out, worked her magic with a crochet hook and a needle, and she fixed it for me. Thank you, Carol. So I now have a mitten with a hole, but I'm still really disheartened that I haven't done anything with this one because the hole's not big enough. I can force my thumb through, but I have to really force it through. It is a little bit too tight. And I've not done in the ends. And I don't love them. It's such a shame. I don't love them. They're all right. But I've got this weird hump. I could do with maybe knitting more of a thumb gusset. That might be better. I don't love them at all. So I think they're just going to have to sit in my WIP basket until I work out what to do. I have a feeling I know what's going to happen. I have a feeling I'm going to end up pulling these back to here and turning them into the socks that they were originally going to be. But I don't know. I can't make a decision. So they're going to go into the bag with all the bits and pieces for now, and I will decide what I want to do with them. All of the yarn is still in there. I haven't put the minis in with all my other minis because if I do need them, I can use them. So WIP number 2. So let me talk you through the startitis. Everything else in this basket has either been started after Christmas or is a very, very long languishing WIP. So this one was started after Christmas. I have fallen down the crochet mini rabbit hole. I'm sorry, but I'm not doing a crochet granny stripe. So I am doing a big granny square. So it's very, very pink in the middle because obviously you use a bit more yarn there, but it's really lovely. It's coming up beautifully. And the reason I started this is because I finally learned how to do a good magic knot. Bella Coco, that is the best magic knot tutorial I've found. All the other ones I ever tried I couldn't do and they just came apart. So I am making a giant magic ball of yarn. I'm working my way through that and then making another big ball and working my way through that. It's really enjoyable. I'm using a 3.5mm hook because I have quite a loose tension and I want this to be not too lacy. The reason being is I'm not going to make it into a blanket because I won't use it. I'm going to make this as big as I need to before I can fold it and sew it along here and put my arms in and wear it as one of those big slouchy cardigans. So that is the plan. So I'm pleased with how it's going. Again, this is a pick up as and when project. You can see I have crazy amounts of yarn in that bag. They are all predominantly leftovers from projects I've knitted. So I've got my Elise top here that I did. I've got a hitchhiker that I did years ago. So they're not all necessarily minis. Sometimes they're leftover sort of 30-40 grams. I may pull some of these out because I've got some projects in mind for them, but they're in here for now. There's all of my opal minis from my advent calendar from 2016. And once I've finished those mittens, then potentially some of my minis will go in from my advent this year. But yeah, I mean, there's leftovers from my stripy socks. There's all sorts of things in here, more stripy socks. So I never ever use a full 100 grams in a pair of socks. So that's all in there. So I've been working on that. And I've got the cutest stitch marker on there. I've left it on there because I put it on at Christmas. But I can show you this now. This is my Christmas pudding. Oops, spin round. How sweet is that? And that was in my advent calendar from down Sheepy Lane. So lovely. Thank you for that, Deb. This isn't even a project bag either, I should say. This is a wash bag. And I bought lots of these when I opened my shop because I thought they'd make really, really nice project bags, and they sold out like that. I don't even know where I got them from now. So the next start, there's no particular order to this, it's all just stuff that's been started since Christmas. This is a crochet project and I'm going to be teaching this as a class. I'm loving it. It is a very simple crochet project if you know how to follow a pattern. It's a star baby blanket. And the yarn that I'm using for this is an acrylic. and you can see it's sparkly. I love a good sparkle. This is going to be one of our classes that I'm going to do in the studio. Oh, we're all out of focus. Woo, come back. The yarn is Hobbycraft yarn, actually. It's called Knitcraft Baby Brilliance. And that is a Hobbycraft yarn. I just bought it because I like a bit of sparkle. I like a baby soft yarn. I wasn't going to spend a fortune to make a sample for a class. And it was on buy two, get one free. So I bought 3 balls of each. It's a super quick make. I think I started this last week and I'm already here with it. So it's a super quick make. As long as you can count in multiples of 2, you're absolutely fine. And it's a real natural pattern. It's one of those ones that once you get the beginning started, you don't need to follow the pattern anymore. It's really logical, which is great. So it's perfect tele knitting. Knitting, crochet. See, confused. What's next? I can't even show you what this is because it's weird. This is a potential class. This is lots of strings of foundationless trebles. I'm not going to get them all out. There's 6 of these, I think. It's a pattern that I'm testing at the moment for a potential class. It's a good one for teaching foundationless trebles. Foundation free cast on, I think it's called as well. And it's going to be a scarf. The yarn I'm using for that, again, it's just cheapy cheerful. It's Hayfield Bonus Chunky. Wasn't going to spend a fortune on it again. And yes, that's all I can show you. I will hopefully get that finished in the not too distant future and be able to show you it as an FO, because at the moment it just looks like a bag of worms. What's in here? Ah! This is a lovely one. I showed you my Franz shawl back in the summer. We're now teaching the Franz shawl as a class at the studio. Fear not, every pupil is buying a copy of the pattern. I don't believe in teaching other people's patterns unless my clients purchase the pattern, because it's not fair on the designers. So everybody has their own copy of the pattern, although I am helping them to understand it. So I am using Stylecraft Batik Swirl for that. I wanted to try one of these cakes. It is super soft. It's really, really lovely. The only thing is, I don't believe that these cakes are suited for something that you need variegation in, because the colour changes are too abrupt. So it does look on your, if you're doing a shawl, it looks as if you've made a mistake, or a blanket. I don't think it's going to matter with this, because when it is worn as a shawl, it will be wrapped around my neck and I won't see it. But I probably wouldn't use this yarn again to make a shawl with, unless I made the pattern that was in the ball band that it was designed for, because I know a lot of these cakes are dyed specifically to make certain projects with. But it's working up really nicely. I haven't done very much of it. I started this last week at the class, but you can see it's pretty. You can see these colour changes are really quite abrupt. They do bleed in a little bit on this one, but my mum's also doing one and she's using the grey and purple version, and hers is really, really abrupt. So yes, Franz shawl on its way, really soft, really springy. Love how it's working up. Again, like I did with my other one, I'm not using a 6mm hook. I get a horrible effect if I use a 6mm hook. I am using a 3.75, so that's quite drastic. But I do suggest to all my pupils that they do a little gauge swatch with various different hooks, working in the back loops, so they can get to see what the springiness is like and they can choose what hook they want to use. Sorry, this sun's doing funny things. I'm going to move my camera. I'm not sure if that's going to be much better. I think it's just going to come in over my shoulder, but hey ho. Right, so we're getting deeper into the basket, so we're going for much more languishing WIPS now. This is a project I started following my last podcast. In fact, I need the book because I can't remember what pattern it was. Hang on. Following my last podcast, I wanted to try the Etta shawl from Truly Hook's book, Off the Hook, On the Hook even, so this book here. The Etta shawl looks like half a spider's web, is the easiest way to explain it. There we go, that's the Etta shawl. So I wanted to try that, and I mentioned, I think, that I was going to use my Octopus Garden from Waltham Yarns, which is my super special yarn that still hasn't found anything to go into, and this gorgeous purple sparkly yarn from Rosie's Moments. Anyway, I did cast it on. I did start it right back in November, and although it looks okay, you can see there, it looks all right. I'm afraid no matter how many times I've started this, I cannot get the stitch count to match the pattern. I've even drawn the stitches and done the maths behind it, and I just can't get it to work. So I don't know what's going wrong with my brain, but at this point it works, but I'm very much winging it, and I don't want to wing a pattern where I'm using such a special yarn. I can't do that to myself, because if I'm not happy with the end result, I would have put hours of work into something just to pull it back, which is what happened to the yarn the first time round. I knitted it into a Stephen West exploration station and then decided I didn't like it halfway through, and I pulled back my entire exploration station, and that was a horrible thing to do. So this is destined for the frogging pile, I'm afraid, and I'm going to try something else with it. So it will be its third time lucky, and if I can't get a pattern to work and it makes me grumpy, there's no point me doing it. So I shall move on to something else. Right, in my Mario bag is my sock head hat, and that is getting somewhere finally. I have been doing quite a bit of this because it is now at the point where it's just round and round knitting. Last time you saw it, it was just the cuff. I finished that, and you can see I am now probably halfway, maybe just past halfway of the straight knitting, and almost ready to start the decreases. So I would think this will be off the needles fairly quickly. I've been doing a good sort of 3 or 4 rows of this every day over the last few weeks, so I don't think this will be long before it's finished. I've also got some train rides coming up, and it's good train knitting. Everything else in this basket hasn't been touched since Vlogtober, when I did a talk through my WIP basket then, and it hasn't been touched at all. There's my lace weight contour shawl, which one of these days will get finished, not anytime soon. There is my stripy Beautiful Things coloured socks that need an afterthought heel put in them, still not done that. And there is my daughter's owl hat that needed one plait finished, still not done that. So I'm not even going to bother showing you those, because I'm actually quite humiliated that they're there still in the bottom of the basket and haven't been touched in a very long while. When I told you about them in October, I hadn't touched them in a very long while, so it's getting ridiculous. I cannot start anything new. I am not allowed to start anything new until I have finished something. Ideally I need to finish more than one thing, but there is a shawl that's going onto my hook really soon that I'm test knitting for a friend, or test hooking for a friend, and I really must get that started. The yarn is on its way to me in the post, and so therefore something's got to get finished before I can start that. Otherwise it might be the one thing to sneak in. So the stash has been enhanced. I got a couple of things for Christmas, and then yesterday I went to the Waltham Abbey Wool Show. It was a really lovely show. It's about 25 minutes away from my house, which is excellent. So we got there really, really quickly. I went with my mum and the lovely Saz from KARST Yarns. She has been staying with me this weekend, just gone, because of the Waltham Abbey Wool Show, but also because I went out for a belated birthday night out with some friends, and her husband came along. So we had a really nice time. We weren't there for very long. We got there about 11. We left just after 1, mainly because the snow was coming down at that point quite heavily, and poor Saz had to drive home to Nottingham. So we wanted to get back as soon as possible. But we had seen everything. We hadn't missed anything. It is a very small show, but it's a very nice show. You probably wouldn't travel from the other end of the country to visit it, but if you are fairly nearby, then it's definitely worth a visit. It was opened by the lovely Nathan, the sockmatician. Had a really nice chat with him. He's coming to teach at my studio in April, so we had a little quick catch up about what we're going to do with that and how we're going to sell the last few spaces. So there are a few spaces left if you'd like to come and do his demystifying double knitting workshop in Essex. Again, I'll pop details of that down below. But yes, I had a nice chat with Nathan. We wandered round, we bought some yarn. I'll show you what I bought in a minute. We had a really nice chat with Verity from Truly Hooked. Nice chat with her, and admired her Stephen West Mild Magic leggings, which were pretty awesome in the flesh. And I bumped into a couple of other people. One lady who I saw really made me laugh. I was admiring a girl's honey cardigan. If it was you, then please do let me know. It was beautiful. Again, it's another one that's in this Truly Hooked book on the hook. It's a cardigan that I was hoping to buy the yarn for yesterday because I want to make it. This one. It's like a slouchy cardi. And I wanted to buy the yarn to make it yesterday. I didn't find anything that I wanted, so I didn't. But it was nice to actually see somebody wearing it because I could actually see what it looked like in the flesh and not just in pictures. So we were having a good chat, myself and this lady was admiring her cardigan. And someone else was kind of standing listening into the conversation. And she literally said to me, "You look taller on the computer." It was brilliant. It really made me laugh. I said to her, "Obviously you watch my channel. Nice to meet you. Hello, thanks for saying hi." But it just made me think, because I'm really not very tall. I'm not particularly short either, but I'm really not very tall. And I said, "Well, I'm always sitting down in my podcast." I said, "How can you tell how tall I am?" And she said, "Oh no," she said, "I watch all your videos." So it's mainly the sewing ones where you stand up and show us what you've been wearing. But of course the camera is at this level. So it's head height when I'm sitting down. So when I stand up and I step back to show you, it's looking up at me. So I suppose it does make me look taller. But that made me laugh that apparently I look taller on your computers. So yeah, we had a nice time. I'm going to just pop a tiny bit of footage in here of Waltham Abbey Wool Show. I didn't take a lot. There's some footage of the funky footwear competition, which Nathan judged. I can tell you that the winners were the Brussels sprouts and biscuits, and the second place were the felted mushrooms. But I think you will agree that that is no surprise. So I shall pop some footage in here. I'm going to buy a skein of yarn and I don't know what to do with it. I'm so proud of her. She's so proud of me. Yay! So acquisitions from the Waltham Abbey Wool Show. This is my first ever I don't know what I'm going to do with it purchase. Those of you who've been to yarn shows and craft fairs with me will know that as soon as you pick something up off a stand and say, this is nice, I'm going to buy it, I will say, what are you going to make with it? And I drive everybody mad because not everybody knows. Sometimes they're buying something just because they like it. I can't do it. If I don't know what I'm going to make with something, I cannot buy it. Often that idea will change and I'll make something else, like that hitchhiker I'm doing the down Cheapy Lane. That was going to be a pair of Mercury socks and that changed. It does change, but in my head I have to think, right, I'm going to make X, Y and Z with this yarn or fabric or buttons or whatever, or I can't purchase it. I can't allow myself to. But this was the first skein of yarn that I saw on a stand and it just said, Claire, take me home. So I did. It's just sock yarn, sparkle sock. It's called Hallucinate. 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 5% stellina, 100 grams. Unbelievable, and it is beautiful. It is neon, it sparkles. I don't know that you'll see that very well, but I love it, and I think I might just keep it as a pet because I don't know what it's going to be. One day I'm sure it will tell me. Also at the Waltham Abbey Wool Show, I bought a couple of minis. I've decided I'd quite like to make the, it's also in this book, Verity. This book's amazing. There's so many lovely things I want to try. What is it called? It's called the Frisky. And the Frisky shawl is designed, oh, I'm not going to show you that page because that's got a pattern on it and that's naughty. The Frisky shawl is designed to be made with one big skein of yarn, so in this instance the grey, and then 5 minis. So I don't know what my main skein will be, but I picked up these 2 minis from Gamer Knitting, oh, I can't remember the name, but they dye all of their yarns around computer games and geeky stuff, and I got these 2. They're colours that I wouldn't normally buy, I have to admit. I am normally a brights girl, but I'm going to keep these 2 together, and I'm going to pick up another, I might have a look through my stash as well, but I'm going to pick up another 3 minis, and then I'll find a big skein to go with it. So I have to be careful because I have got so many WIPS on the go and I have got such a big stash. I don't need any more yarn, but I do want to go to all the yarn shows over the next few months, and so I have to be really, really careful that I can go with something in my head that allows me to remain restrained. And that's what happened at Waltham Abbey. That is all I bought, literally. I was really, really good. And that's because I'd gone with the idea that I would buy some minis, but I wasn't going to buy a mini set. I was going to buy minis from different people, and I was going to buy the yarn for my honey cardigan. I couldn't find the yarn for my honey cardigan, so I didn't, and I just found 2 minis that I liked, so I bought those. But it does mean that when I go to Unravel, which is the next yarn show that I'm going to in February, I've got more minis to look for, and I've still got that honey yarn to look for. So I should be able to be fairly restrained there too, which is good because I really must not add to my stash anymore because it's getting out of hand. I have got 3 more acquisitions though. As I mentioned, I got the Down Cheapy Lane advent calendar for Christmas, and the lovely thing that I got as part of that, which I didn't realise I was going to get, was a full skein of yarn to open on Christmas Day. And I did just that. I kept it under the tree, and it's really pretty. It's called Prosecco Punch, and it's a comfy sock. So it's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and it's really, really soft. It's lovely. Now I'm not going to knit this into socks. I'm not rushing to do more socks this year. I don't wear that many hand knitted socks, and I've got plenty of pairs. So I'm going to try and do more garment knitting and shawl knitting this year. But it's so, so pretty. It's lovely. So this is going into my stash, and again, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I didn't buy it. So when I've decided what I'm going to do with it, I will let you know. Now the last thing, well, it's not the last thing actually, I've got something else to show you, but the last skein of yarn I've got to show you, I am super lucky. Now, if you don't follow KARST Yarns, that's K-A-R-S-T, on Instagram and Facebook yet, go and follow them. My lovely friend Sarah, or Saz, is launching KARST Yarns in March, and she's already started to tease you with her first 2 colourways, and she's also let you know now that her first collection of yarns is going to be Wizard of Oz themed. Now, I have been in with Saz from the beginning on all of her plans, so I know what all of her plans are, and oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I cannot wait for her to launch in March, because I know you're just going to love the stuff that she's coming up with. And the future plans, oh my goodness, that's amazing too. All of her seasons, as she's going to call them, are going to be based around books or television or films, and they're going to be themed, and themed seasons. So the Wizard of Oz is the first one. Now, she's already shown you the Tin Man colourway, which is a beautiful pale silvery grey with lots and lots of sparkle. She showed you that on her Instagram, and she has shown you her other colourway, City of Emeralds, which is absolutely beautiful. And I have here, this was my birthday present from Saz, a very early City of Emeralds. Now, I need to say it was very early, because as beautiful as this is, the stuff that she is going to be selling in March is 10 times as beautiful. It's even nicer, and this is lovely, but this was an early prototype, so she's got a few of those from when she was first testing it out, that she thought I would like one for Christmas. So you can see it's absolutely beautiful. It's stellina, it's gold stellina in this gorgeous green. There's a little grey and blue and white in it to show off the emerald, all the different colours that are in emeralds. I shouldn't have done that, because I'm not very good at getting these back into skeins. I'm not a natural. But yeah, I am so lucky to have this. So again, this one's going into my stash as an I don't know what I'm going to do with it yarn. I haven't decided. I have got some Tin Man on its way to me. Again, early dye batch. That is a little bit lilac-y, so the colours didn't quite work, but save it going to waste. Saz is sending it to me so that I can hook something up for her. So I will show you what I do with that. But I say, if you don't already follow them, KARST Yarns, K-A-R-S-T. It's all very exciting. It goes off at the end of March. How to do this? Oh, you dyers make it look so easy. Oh, that's just a mess. So my last acquisition, this was a Christmas present from my mum, something that I had on my Christmas list. Nikki from the Tea and Possibilities podcast made one of these last year, and I absolutely loved it. I showed it to my family, and they all agreed it would look amazing on the wall as you come down our stairs. So I have been bought one of the make your own prehistoric pals, and it's the Triceratops head. It's the full kit, and I haven't even opened it, if I'm honest, because I daren't cast this on, because I think it's one of those things that once you start you can't stop. But you've got all of the eyes and the bits and bobs you need in there, all the yarn to make your Triceratops head. You've got your needles in there, the pattern. No, that's just a leaflet. The pattern is here. Oh no, that's a free pattern to make a hat. See, I told you I haven't even looked in here. This must be the pattern. Yes, here it is. This is from Sincerely Louise. It's all folded over, but you can see him there. He's the Triceratops that I'm going to make, and you also get the backboard, the wooden board with all the holes in it, so that you can stitch it onto the board and mount it on your wall. So I will get him done at some point this year, but I don't know when. As I say, I'm trying not to set myself up to fail this year. I want to give you regular content that's of interest. So that's that. I hope you've enjoyed the knitting and crochet side of things. Just as a little aside, just to mention, I talked about TV knitting earlier on. I have been watching some new series, and I know often people on their channels talk about the things they've been watching. It's nice to be able to share that with you so that you can all have a good telly binge while we're knitting. Now, I have been watching 2 series. I've been watching The Good Place, which is very, very funny. The second series of that has just started. We've been watching that on Netflix. I don't know if it's available anywhere else. Very funny. It's basically set in the afterlife, and it's a comedy, and it's really, really funny. I'm just not going to tell you too much about it. Just go and check it out. It's nice, short, half-an-hour episodes, so you can binge it. In fact, I told Saz to watch it. She drove home yesterday, and when I spoke to her about 10 o'clock last night, she said to me, I'm already 6 episodes in. So she said it's a quick one. It will hook you in. It's lots of fun. It's great husband and wife telly viewing. It's just general viewing, in fairness. So yeah, The Good Place, go check that one out. And the other one, I stumbled across this one purely by fluke. It happened to be on telly, and it happened to be the first episode that was on television. Mr. Mac had fallen asleep on the sofa, and I'd started to kind of watch it and not watch it. You know how something's on and you're aware of it, and then you realise, actually, I quite like this. This is quite good. And I watched the whole episode, and that's The Good Doctor. Now, we have now binge watched the whole of the first series. We're now watching the second series. We're now at the point where it's being released on a weekly basis. It's on Sky. So we can't binge anymore. We have to do it each week. But it's a really, really good programme. If you liked House, you will like The Good Doctor. It's very similar. They'll have it's a hospital drama. They'll have a case. And this particular surgical intern will solve the case. The thing that makes it different to everything else is that he is a super duper character. He's a surgical intern with a very advanced type of autism, a very special type of autism. And he is incredibly clever. But the way that he socially interacts with others is embarrassing and therefore quite funny. So yeah, really good show, really good characters, very well acted. I absolutely love the main character. I just want to reach into the telly and give him a hug. He's just brilliant. So if you liked House and you like medical dramas, then go and check out The Good Doctor. As I say, you can binge the whole of the first series, and the second one is now currently coming out on a weekly basis on Sky. I'm not sure if you can get it on Netflix or Amazon or anything else. You probably can, but we're watching it on Sky at the moment. So 2 recommendations for you. I will be back next month, and I will hopefully have some of these many, many WIPs finished, and I shouldn't have started anything else. But we'll see how I go. Thanks for watching. Bye!